Hi, Veronica.
Hi, Faye.
Thank you for being a part of Project Immersive. Your artwork is incredible, and I think I've said this a billion times already. I've been a big fan of yours for a while.
Thank you.
I would love the opportunity to ask you some questions.
Yeah.
First, I'd really love to know kind of what your stake in Maine is. Like, why do you live here? What do you love about Maine? What makes you as an artist want to be here in Maine?
Yeah, so I moved up here in 2014. I graduated in 2016 to Maine College of Arts MFA program. We just kind of moved here on a whim because we thought it was just such a beautiful place. It's one of the places where you can see the sun first rise, and that was one of the really exciting things for us. And Maine really gave me the space to think about the work. I came from New Jersey and Philadelphia, and it's really fast paced there, and like that definitely works for some people, but being able to be quiet for like 8 months out of the year while it's snowing and really immerse yourself in the work was something that I really appreciated about Maine.
Yeah, there's kind of this beauty of that piece here.
Yeah, for sure. And Maine really has this way of supporting their artists that I really enjoy. It's, Philadelphia is such a big city, and they definitely do support their artists, but I see such a fervor for it in Maine that it just made me want to stay and really integrate myself into the artist community here.
Well, if I could speak on behalf of the artist community, even though I can't, that's not my place, I'm pretty sure they'd say, please stay here forever. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And do you mind just kind of sharing about your mask?
Oh, sure. I kind of made it on a whim. Like, I had all these leftover flowers, and I just thought it would be a lot of fun to kind of like play on something really dark, which is something that my work does. It's really light and fun, but there's some really insidious sides to it as well. So I don't know. It's always if you can't laugh at yourself or you can't laugh at the situation, I kind of live my life in that way, just, acknowledging that, serious things do exist, and, the world is kind of in turmoil right now, but at the same time, there's little spots of joy that we can experience throughout the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel that. So before we get too far into that, though, I would love to kind of ask, so you're quite known for they're plaster and hair sculptures?
Yeah, mortar and hair, or concrete and hair, or just plain hair.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you tell kind of like about what kind of inspired you to start doing that, and what was why hair, and why the two different completely interesting combinations?
Yeah, I guess why hair was somebody had a bag of hair left over in our sculpture studio, and so I was like, that's an interesting material, because I really like working with non-traditional materials. I'm a welder and a woodworker at trade, but I really feel that I can excel and really get my point across if I use some really non-traditional materials. And so someone left a bag of hair, and I had a bunch of mortar left over, and I combined those two because I liked the hybridization of the two materials, something really hard and then something really soft coming together. And it really helped me talk about identity in this really heavy-handed way.
What do you mean by identity?
I mean that it was easier for me to allude to like contemporary feminist tensions through the use of hair and mortar, and by combining those two materials, starting to see because like I guess I can explain it better by talking about like the hair pillars, and they're hair pillars. They're all different sizes. They're made of mortar and hair. And they usually have a braid going around it. And I like them because, when you first make them, they're kind of like they are what they are. They're, rock and hair together. But over time, the hair kind of insidiously just kind of keeps working away at the mortar. And eventually, like, it kind of just like works the mortar away. And, I just kind of like that connotation between this thing being so like, we don't think about it. It's so superfluous, but it's still like there. And I kind of feel like that's how I am. Like, I'm just kind of like there, but I'm slowly working away and like getting my point across that way.
Yeah. That's really fascinating. When I first saw them, I thought that they were very striking in this very kind of this duality of masculine and feminine. So it's very interesting for you to hear that from you.
That's absolutely correct too. When I first started working with the mortar and the hair as well, gender came into play a lot. And, I don't consider myself a feminine person. I don't consider myself a masculine person. I kind of consider myself sometimes more feminine, sometimes more masculine,
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I liked the combination and the duality that it created when you put those two materials together.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So I am curious. So how you kind of got involved with this is kind of crazy, but I am really curious. What do you think of Project Immersive? How do you feel about working in this non-traditional space as opposed to a more traditional gallery space?
I really enjoyed working in Project Immersive, and that's not just because you're sitting in front of me asking me that question, but it also comes from just I appreciate galleries for their white walls and, really focusing in on the work, but I like these kind of like industrialized spaces where we knew that life still took place here, but now like we get to show art here. And I don't know if that makes sense, but I just really like all of like the little tiny details in here of
So I am really curious, within this space,
Mm-hmm.
right, this little tiny box that we have here in Biddeford, what has been your experience working within the space versus a more traditional gallery space?
Well, of course, working in this space was different in a lot of ways than working in a traditional gallery. I think I said this earlier, but there was the sense of collaboration was a little bit more, it was both sided. Like we both had a say in it, and we both were, very direct with each other in what each of us wanted, and what the artist wanted, because you continuously asked me like, is this okay? Is this okay with you? And it's nice to feel that kind of care and concern from a curator, fellow collaborator. But also I felt like you didn't expect anything out of me. You just really wanted me to have my vision and my words be heard. And I think that working in a more traditional gallery setting, you fill out the application, but you fill out the proposal, and you fill out this, and then you have to stick to it. And there's no leeway of like, well, no, I'm in the space now and this would look good here, or this might be good here. It's just like you kind of got to stick with it. But with here, the collaboration was freeing and open to kind of like, do what felt good to me. Well, it just felt good to actually be asked like, what do you want to do with your work?
Right.
And so that's how I think it was different.
And there were
than
still
working in a
times where you
traditional
asked
gallery.
me, like, hey, how does this look?
Mm-hmm.
Does this feel good?
Yeah.
So I felt like you and I had really good communication in that.
Yeah, and it felt honest. Like it felt better to install this way than having like a checklist of like, we got to get this up, we got to do this. It was more like, okay, these two pieces look good here, or maybe we should move this piece over here.
Can you talk a little bit about the organization that the proceeds are going to? So 100% of proceeds are going to...
Oh yeah, 100% of the proceeds are going to Hinge Collaborative, which is a organization in Waterville, Maine, that is an artist-run space, gallery, collaborative space residency run by two artists of color in Maine. Their names are Elizabeth Jabbar and Sean Alonzo Harris. I knew Elizabeth from working at Mecca with her. She's a fantastic artist, and they started this, I believe, last year, and they're raising funds for it now. So 100% of the proceeds from the show are going to go there.
Awesome. What is happening within the space, and where, how, what, everything.
So these sculptures, all of the sculptures in the show, the two hands and all of the Marys, they came from quarantine. They came from me experimenting with new and different materials. And they really just came from a need to create. That was like the first place I started, because I wasn't working anymore. And as an artist, I wasn't really making a lot of work. So it was nice and freeing to unfortunately have the time to make these pieces. But I really just wanted to make something, wildly different that I have wanted to make for a long time. With my work, I try to tone it down a lot. I try to just do black and white. or brown or blonde when I'm working with the hair, and I never really experimented with just like an explosion of color or anything like that. And so I really kind of gave myself the freedom. I didn't even think I was going to show these. I didn't think I was going to show them to anybody.
Yeah.
I thought they were just going to be for me, but I gave myself the freedom to kind of just like work in the way that I've always wanted to work. And now you have the pieces in the show. And they're really freeing and exciting because I still think that they do talk about a lot of the things that I have in my work, but in this really different way that I haven't explored before. Yeah.
And if you don't mind if we touch on that a little bit,
Yeah.
because some of your work, some people might misconstrue your purpose behind some of your work, because you do have some religious symbols and this kind of thing, and I wasn't sure if you might just be able to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I did grow up Christian, like very Christian, unfortunately. And it was just such a silly, like I don't mean to talk down to it, or I don't mean to demean it or anything, but it's such a silly thing to me that you put yourself in this position of having this blind faith. And it's like, everyone just tells you if things aren't going right, have that blind faith, not, work harder or do this or do that. It's just like, you got to have the faith. And I just always thought that was really comical.
Right.
I guess my brain is like functioning a little bit differently, because I didn't mean to say that. I meant to say, I guess I just see it a little bit differently, like having that kind of blind faith. So it kind of came out of like a little bit of like a comedic need to kind of like poke fun at religion a little bit, because I don't think that somebody that was religious would walk in here would really appreciate me like cutting the head off of Mary, or like, she's chopped at the midsection and wearing kind of like this faux mask. So I think the symbolism is meant to be taken very lightly and like really jokingly, which some people might not appreciate, but at the same time I find the humor in it. So
well, and it's something that religion and spirituality, I think, ties all of us together in some fashion, regardless of what that base of faith is. So, and I think that we, my personal viewpoint is that creative people and artists in this world are here to kind of share an outside perspective than what would normally be seen.
Absolutely.
So I think if anything, you're doing a service to the community. And you know what I mean? Because,
Priest Veronica.
No, seriously, because I think it is an important aspect of taking faith seriously, but also understanding why.
Exactly.
Why am I doing this?
And you people that say like keep the faith don't really look at the reasons behind why they're doing a lot of the things. So right. I totally it just kind of dawned on me when you said that.
Yeah. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing. I really love all of your work.
Thanks,
I'm so
dude.
glad that you decided to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that we were able to collaborate and work together on this.
Same.
Do you have anything that you felt like you wanted to share or anything?
No, I guess the one thing I didn't share is that some of this work also comes out of, so the show is called Praying to a Porcelain God, and I made all of the work sitting in my bathroom in front of the toilet, because that was the only studio space available to me, and that's like been the only studio space available to me since I graduated from Maine College of Art in 2016, because it's just very hard to afford a studio space. So I think this plays a little bit with privilege as well, and just showing what we can do with so little. Like if, I don't, as an artist, don't have a lot of money. I know a lot of people don't have a lot of money, but kind of like almost keeping the faith and like pushing through that and like really showing what people can do when, they just make a couple sculptures in their bathroom after their kid goes to sleep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't know. I like to play with privilege in my work. It's something new that I'm exploring, but I think it's something that it's like that also the insidious thing that I was talking about earlier. It's like really insidious, and especially with everything that's going on now, I think it's something that we definitely need to take a harder look at.
Yeah. I appreciate you.
Yeah. I appreciate you.
Thank you for doing what you do. And I'm always, every time you speak, I'm just taking it all in. And
Girl.
I still feel so, honestly, I feel so grateful that you're here.
That makes me feel really good. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it.